There's a reason your wicking bed dries out on top while the bottom turns into a swamp, and it has nothing to do with your design. You can seal the liner perfectly, set the overflow pipe at exactly the right height, build a flawless reservoir underneath, and still watch your plants wilt 3 weeks later. So you blame the concept. You read comments online swearing wicking beds just don't work. But the bed is fine. The problem is the soil you poured into it. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to fix it. I love this one because it's the single change that turns a struggling bed into a thriving one. So come closer. Start with the thing that makes a wicking bed work at all. Capillary rise. Water is sticky. It clings to itself, and it clings to surfaces. Put it next to a narrow gap, and it climbs. You've seen this 1,000 times. Touch the corner of a paper towel to a glass of water, and the water crawls upward against gravity, all on its own. Nobody's pumping it. It just climbs. That climb is the entire engine of a wicking bed. Water sits in the reservoir at the bottom. The soil above works like that paper towel, drawing moisture up into the root zone, slowly and steadily, without you ever touching a hose. Look at a cross-section of a healthy wicking bed, and you can almost picture it, water rising out of the gravel reservoir and feeding the roots from below. But here's the part almost everyone misses, and it's the whole ballgame. How high the water climbs and how fast depends entirely on the size of the gaps between your soil particles. Picture 2 straws standing in water, a skinny one and a fat one. In the skinny straw, water climbs high. In the fat straw, it barely rises. Soil is millions of tiny gaps behaving exactly like straws. The right-sized gaps wick beautifully. Make them too big, and the water won't climb at all. And here's the twist nobody expects. Make them too small, and the water climbs in but clings so tightly the roots can't pull it back out. Too coarse starves the plant. Too fine drowns it. That narrow sweet spot in the middle is everything, and it's why the stuff in your backyard almost never works. So let's talk about garden soil. That dark, heavy topsoil we all instinctively grab. A shovel of it looks rich. It feels like exactly what a plant would want. And out in open ground, it often is. But a wicking bed is really just a big container, and in a container, that same soil behaves like a completely different material. The University of Massachusetts Extension says it flatly. Field soils are generally unsatisfactory for growing plants in containers because they don't deliver the balance of air, drainage, and water holding that containers demand. That's the reasoning behind nearly every bagged potting mix on the shelf. Here's the mechanism. Garden soil is loaded with very fine particles: clay, silt, fine organic matter. You'd assume tiny particles make tiny gaps that wick like a dream. But 2 things go wrong fast. The first is compaction. In a raised bed, there are no earthworms tunneling and no deep roots breaking things apart, so that fine soil settles. It packs down under its own weight, and a little more every time you water. The pores collapse, and those little straws get crushed shut. The second problem is the real killer. Once those fine pores pack tight, they grip water so hard they never hand it back, and they never let air in. That grip has a name, matric tension, and in packed clay, it's strong enough that roots physically can't overcome it. So the roots sit in a wet, airless zone that still won't feed them, and roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. Drown them, and they rot. You end up with the worst of both worlds. The bottom becomes a swamp, the top goes bone dry because the crushed soil can't lift water that high, and the wicking quietly dies part way up. You didn't build a bad bed, you filled a good bed with a medium that compacts, clogs, and refuses to wick. So what goes in instead? This is where it gets good. You're building around 3 jobs: a base that holds and wicks the water, an amendment that keeps the structure open for air, and compost for nutrients and life. Line up 3 bags in your mind: a compressed block of coconut coir, a bag of white perlite, and a bag of finished compost. That's the whole recipe. Start with the base, either sphagnum peat moss or coconut coir, making up about half the mix. This is your paper towel, the sponge that holds moisture and does most of the wicking. Both soak up many times their own weight in water and release it slowly. Watch a dry coir block hit a tub of water and it's almost magic. That little brick swells and drinks until it's 10 or 15 times its original size. Next, aeration, from perlite or vermiculite or a blend, making up roughly a quarter. Perlite is those white chunks of puffed volcanic glass. North Carolina State's Container Media Guidance points out that perlite holds almost no water itself, but it dramatically increases AIR space and keeps a mix from compacting. That's exactly the thing garden soil couldn't do. The perlite wedges those pores open so they never collapse. A distinction worth knowing: perlite mostly drains and aerates. Vermiculite holds more water and more nutrients. In a hot, dry climate, lean toward vermiculite for the extra storage. If you tend to overwater or you garden somewhere damp, lean on perlite for insurance drainage. A blend of both suits most gardens nicely. Last, compost, about a quarter, bringing the nutrients and living biology plants love. But here's where people undo all their good work. Too much compost, especially fine, dense compost, drags you straight back into the compaction trap. It packs down, clogs the pores, chokes the wicking. Keep it to a quarter, no more. So the recipe, as simple as it gets: 2 parts base, 1 part aeration, 1 part compost. That lands you at about half coir or peat, a quarter perlite or vermiculite, and a quarter compost. Write that on the side of your wheelbarrow and you're set. Prices vary, but as a working guide, a mix like this runs somewhere between $5 and $8 per cubic foot when you buy the parts in bulk. Compressed coir blocks are the cheapest way to buy your base by volume. Perlite is the priciest ingredient per bag. One more reason we cap it near a quarter. Big bales and bulk bags always beat the little retail sacks. The trick with mixing a whole bed is to not mix it in the bed. Combine it on a tarp or in a wheelbarrow, in batches. And wet your base first, because there's a trap waiting. The University of Maryland Extension warns that dry coir and dry peat are hydrophobic. Bone dry, they repel water and float on top of it. So soak the base until it's evenly damp. Work it through with a fork, then fold in the perlite and compost like mixing cement on a tarp. Measure your bed, length times width times depth, and mix enough batches to fill it. A little math up front saves you a half-filled bed and a second trip to the garden center. If this is helping you build a better bed, go ahead and subscribe. This whole channel is raised beds and soil science, and this wicking series has more parts coming. Now, back to a detail that trips up a surprising number of people: the pH of your base. Peat and coir do the same job, but they part ways on acidity. Peat moss is genuinely acidic, often sitting around a pH of 3.5 to 4.5. That's far too low for most vegetables. So with peat, you'll need garden lime to lift it toward neutral, which is exactly why commercial peat-based mixes almost always come with lime already blended in. The University of Maryland notes those mixes are typically adjusted to around 6.2, right in the growing sweet spot. COIR is the easier story. Coconut coir usually lands near neutral, roughly 5.8 to 6.8. So for most crops, you can skip the lime entirely. One honest catch: Coir can carry salt from its coastal origin, so buy a product that's already washed and buffered, or give a cheap block a good rinse before use. Nothing to lose sleep over, just worth knowing. Peat wicks and holds wonderfully, but needs lime. Coir wicks nearly as well and comes ready to plant. Either works, as long as you respect the pH. Now here's the piece that reframes this whole video. Even with a decent mix, every container fights a hidden enemy called the perched water table. When you water any pot or bed, water drains down until it reaches the bottom, and then it stalls. A saturated, soggy layer builds along the base and just sits there, held by capillary tension, refusing to drain until the media above forces it out. And the finer your material, the taller that soggy zone climbs. In heavy garden soil, it can rise a shocking distance up the bed, drowning roots from the bottom up. And this is where I have to bust a myth you've heard 100 times. Adding a layer of gravel at the bottom of a bed to improve drainage. It doesn't work. Container research has shown for decades that a coarse layer underneath actually raises the perched water table into your root zone because water won't cross from fine media into coarse media until the fine stuff is fully saturated. A wicking bed is the one clever exception because it uses that saturated zone on purpose as the reservoir. But it only works if the soil above is open enough to keep that soggy zone low and let air reach the roots, which is the entire reason we build the mix the way we do. One more thing almost nobody warns you about. Your mix does not stay the same. Over a season, the compost and organic base break down. Microbes eat them, the volume vanishes, and the whole bed slumps. It's common to watch the soil line drop 2, 3, even 4 inches in a single year. And as it breaks down, the particles get finer, which nudges you right back toward compaction. That's not a failure. That's organic matter doing what organic matter does. But it means you need a rhythm. Once a year, ideally in spring, top the bed back up with a fresh batch of base and aeration mix, plus a little compost to restore the level and refresh the structure. Loosen the top few inches gently with a fork while you're there to break up any surface crust. That yearly top-up is the difference between a wicking bed that thrives for years and one that quietly clogs and dies in its second season. And that brings us to the most useful thing in this whole video. A way to know whether your mix actually wicks before you trust a whole growing season to it. Gardeners check this with a dead simple capillary test that needs nothing but a clear jar and an inch of water. The jar gets loosely filled with the damp finished mix and stood in a shallow tray holding about an inch of water. Then you watch the wet front, that darkening line where the water has climbed. A good wicking mix pulls the dampness up several inches within a few hours and keeps creeping over a day. Set 2 jars side by side, and the difference jumps out. In a good mix, the water climbs high and dark. In a mix that's too coarse or too compacted, it barely lifts off the bottom. There's an even simpler version with a strip of paper towel, one end in water, showing how far and fast it climbs. Your soil should behave like that towel. If it doesn't, you fix the mix before it goes in the bed, not after. A 5-minute test can save an entire wasted season. So now you know why the bed was never the problem. Garden soil compacts, clogs, and refuses to wick, and its perched water table drowns your roots from below. A proper mix, about half coir or peat, a quarter perlite or vermiculite, and a quarter compost, does exactly what a wicking bed needs. And a 2-minute jar test tells you if you nailed it before you commit an entire season. I'm genuinely curious what you filled your first bed with. Straight topsoil? A bagged mix? Something homemade? Let me know down in the comments and tell me whether it actually wicked, because I read every single one. Now here's what I love about everything we just covered. That same capillary pull, water climbing through tiny pores all on its own, isn't a modern trick. Farmers were using it thousands of years ago with nothing but a buried clay pot. No reservoir, no liner, no pipe anywhere in sight. And the water savings people report from it are almost hard to believe. That's the next video, the ancient watering method that cuts water use in half. It's on screen right now. Once you understand the science we just walked through, you're going to see exactly why it works.